When it comes to the creatures of Chinese mythology, all pale in comparison to the dragon, who serve as figures of fortune, power, and divinity, being worshipped as great protectors of nature. But on 1934, the people of Yingkou City would witness one of these heavenly figures violently fall to the earth, leaving more than just destruction in the beast's wake. Welcome to Cryptid Corner, the series All Things Cryptids, and today, to kick off the October festivities, I bring you the Yingkou Dragon Incident of 1934. Today's topic takes us to Yingkou City in Liaoning Province, China, back in the summer of 1934, which, as you can guess by the year, was not the best time. And during the July of that year, a heavy downpour would engulf the region, which would eventually climax with the appearance of a Lóng, or the Chinese dragon. The beast boasted shiny scales, a set of claws along with a set of horns, and a long beard, with a body that clocked in around 30 feet in length. Usually, a dragon at the end of a downpour would imply prosperity to come and a bountiful harvest. But this wouldn't apply to the dragon itself, who to the locals appeared ill, falling from the sky following thunderous screams during an intense downpour. Locals would attempt to nurse the dragon back to health, creating a makeshift structure for the dragon, bringing in water, and they would even bring in monks to pray for its recovery. But despite the kindness of the locals, the dragon would suddenly vanish without a trace. Following more downpour, and on the evening of August 8th, a farmer would come across the partial skeleton of the dragon on the north bank of the Liaohe River, with the remains consisting of the dragon's body, head, horns, and beard. Locals would swarm to the scene of the sighting, and newspapers would quickly pick up the story, but the skeleton would vanish over the years and the case would be largely forgotten. At least this would be the case until a man named Sun Jingren would come forward in 2004, some 70 years later. You see, long ago, Sun would be rewarded with what was claimed to be the bones from the dragon when he was 16 as a payment for a job, and he would wait until 2004 to come forward, which would result in an investigation from the Chinese CCTV show Approaching Science, which brings in experts to look into odd phenomenon. It would probably be on the Discovery Channel if it was over here in the West. So did dragons actually fall from the sky back in 1934? Dragons are greatly important symbolically to the Chinese, but many also believe that they are real animals. Historic reports such as the sighting of 8 dragons in the Jiang River back in the year 80 CE, as recorded in the Book of Later Han, leading many to believe that dragons, or an animal similar to them, actually lives in the Chinese wilderness. And of course, some people will bring up that the Lóng shows up alongside real animals on the zodiac, but that doesn't really mean anything in regards to dragons existing, as the zodiacs are all symbolic of something. They all already represent something, they're just a shoe-in. The historic reports are pretty interesting, but at the same time, many cultures around the world tend to mix up their mythologies and historical events, making it very difficult to look into, such as the Norse, the Greek, and the Romans. But at the same time, there are many animals in China that could have inspired or be misinterpreted as dragons, such as giant salamanders, crocodiles, water monitors, several giant fish species, and fossil remains, with many dinosaurs going on to serve as the inspiration behind several dragon stories across the world. And throughout Chinese history, fossils have been referred to as dragon bones. And when looking at the picture of the Yingkou dragon skeleton, a conclusion that you may have already come to is that these are actually the remains of a baleen whale. For starters, this skeleton was found in close proximity to the ocean after a violent storm, which could have caused the lost whale to wash up. And anyone familiar with lobsters that wash up can tell you that advanced decomposition can leave whales in an unrecognizable state. The spine is pretty much a dead giveaway, but at the same time, the other features can also be explained pretty easily. The claws being the whale's flippers, the scales being barnacles and rotting blubber, the horns being the whale's jaw, which was greatly altered in angle, and the beard actually being the baleen, which makes sense because it's in its mouth and the jaw's all messed up. It could have also been arranged by the villagers themselves. We'll get into that in a minute. I've also seen some people think that this could be an oarfish, but upon looking at their skeletons, it does not match, although they do have some pretty wild skeletons. What a cool fish. Approaching science also came to the conclusion that this was a whale, and when it comes to Sung Jing-ren's dragon bones, genetic testing would show that he got fleeced, as these actually turned out to be fossilized horse teeth. Not dragon bones, but horse bones. The report of the dragon being nursed back to health also seems very weird to me, as if this was happening, why wouldn't anyone take a picture of it? I mean, like, we got a picture of the skeleton after all, and apparently, like, they were bringing people from all over to come look at this. If they could come get monks to pray for it, then why not get someone to take a picture of it? I either think that it was just entirely made up for the sake of the photograph, or that this could have been mass hysteria, which is very common during times of widespread stress and turmoil. And a pretty big stressor in China during 1934 was the Imperial Japanese, whose invasion of Manchuria would result in hundreds of thousands of deaths. The idea of a dragon dying during a terrible storm also feels quite symbolic when provided the context of the Japanese controlling Yingkou for about 2 years at this point, abducting citizens and forcing them to work until they drop dead. It is as if all sense of justice just completely evaporated. It's quite tragic. And so, the dragon of Yingkou appears to be nothing more than the carcass of a whale. Although, I don't know the exact baleen whale, but if you are well versed in whale biology, please be welcome to let me know down below. It was about 32 feet long and was thought to be a baleen whale. But at the same time, the death of a dragon, a creature who represents fortune, prosperity, and Chinese power, is a dreadful concept when reminded of what was happening in this region at this time. But at the same time, dragons, or ryu, were also important to the Japanese, as dragons also being seen as symbols of power and imperialism over there, with several aircraft and naval vessels with Ryu in their names. So, on a more optimistic note, this could have also been a prophecy of Imperial Japan being vanquished from the land and peace being restored. But only after a dreadful tempest. But then seeing how China would do under Mao Zedong, the prophecy thing could also be flipped on its head, as a lot of people would starve during that period, so I mean, it just wouldn't get better for a long time. I'll just leave it at that. Social credit deducted. And that is going to do it for the Yingkou Dragon, and this will be the first Cryptid Corner of October. Spooky season is here, boys, and I have been really happy to get started on the October videos. Man, like, this was a pretty interesting story. I just kind of came across it the other day. Just, yeah, I saw an article on it, and I was like, what the hell? This is cool. So I just saw the picture, and I was like, yeah, I gotta look into this. I think this would be a very good video for October. I've been so this is probably the happiest I've been to start, like, making videos. Like, I'm feeling really enthusiastic about this month, you know, because it's spooky season, and I talk about cryptids, so this is the perfect time for stuff like this. You know, this month I am going to try to be focusing on a lot of cool and kind of creepy stuff like this. I mean, this is a dragon skeleton. That's pretty creepy if you ask me. So, if you got your suggestions, of course. So yeah, for spooky season, we're going to be looking into more just spookier kind of cryptids, and we're not going to really be looking at the most plausible cryptids in the world. Although I do have a mix-up with a pretty plausible cryptid, and we're going to hit that at around somewhere in the middle of the month. But, again, if you got suggestions, make sure to comment down below what you got. The spookier, the better. But, Again, what do you think about the Yingkou dragon? Do you think that Lóng or Chinese dragons are actual animals or inspired by some sort of reptilian creature? Make sure to comment down below what you think the Yingkou dragon is, and if anyone knows a lot about whales, what whale do you think this was? You know, I always love it when an expert in a field comes in and they're like, oh, or like even an enthusiast comes in and they're like, oh yeah, I think it's this, because it gives a lot of insight. I like to know stuff like that. But if you like this video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you are a fan of this type of content. Subscribe and ring that bell so that you can be alerted whenever a cryptid comes to your inbox. And if you really, really, really like this content, for $3 a month, you can become a member where you gain access to videos early, priority recommendations, and you get to be right here with the beluga and all of this really cool rotating food. But that's going to do it for the Yingkou dragon. I'm really looking forward to this October. It's going to be a lot of fun, and I'm going to see you in the next one. Stay safe.